Ownership. You wake up early, you stay late, you feel proud of how hard you work, and somehow every month looks the same. Same bills, same stress, same feeling that you're running but not moving. This is the moment most men live in. They believe the problem is effort, not enough hours, not enough discipline, not enough grind. That belief feels logical. It feels fair. If I work harder, I should earn more. But here's the quiet truth no one tells you. Effort is capped. Time is capped. Energy is capped. You don't lose because you're lazy. You lose because the system you're using can't scale. Rich men see this early. Poor men don't. Poor men sell hours. Rich men build things that sell without them. That's the difference. Not intelligence, not luck. Structure. Ownership. When you own nothing, you must keep showing up forever. When you own something, it keeps working even when you stop. This is why two men can work equally hard and end up in different lives. One is paid once per hour, the other is paid once per system. Look closely. Jobs reward presence, systems reward absence. If your income stops the moment you stop moving, you don't have income. You have labor, and labor never makes you free. It only keeps you busy. Here's the shift rich men make. They stop asking, how do I work harder? They start asking, what can I own that keeps producing? A product, a piece of code, a media channel, a small business, even a simple service that runs on repeat. Ownership doesn't mean huge companies. It means leverage, something that separates input from output. Poor men repeat effort. Rich men repeat results. Poor men feel useful. Rich men feel patient. And here's the uncomfortable part. Ownership feels slow at first. No dopamine, no praise, no quick win. That's why most people quit. But once it clicks, effort is no longer the driver. Structure is. So here's the move this week. Stop trading all your energy for short-term pay. Pick one thing you can build once and reuse. 1. A simple digital product. A small service with a repeatable process. A skill you can package instead of resell hourly. Don't optimize it. Just make it exist. Because the moment you own something, you stop being trapped by effort. And once you see that, you start asking a dangerous question. If effort isn't the path, what else have I been wrong about? Listen carefully, because this leads to the second system. Leverage. Think about the last time you were exhausted. Not tired, exhausted. You did everything right, focused, disciplined, consistent, and still the progress was small. This is where most men break. They assume the answer is more willpower, more motivation, more pressure. But rich men don't push harder. They multiply smarter. They understand leverage. Leverage is the force that turns small actions into large outcomes. Without leverage, effort stays small forever. With leverage, even average effort compounds. This is where the game changes. Poor men rely on personal output. Rich men rely on tools that extend them. Technology, people, capital, systems. Poor men ask, how can I do this faster? Rich men ask, how can this run without me? That question alone separates outcomes. Because once leverage is involved, time stops being the limit. You can't outwork the clock, but you can outscale it. Here's what leverage really means. It means your work touches more than one result. One decision affects 10 outcomes. One action creates a chain reaction. That's why rich men look calm. They're not relaxed because life is easy. They're calm because the system is doing the heavy lifting. Poor men stay reactive. They respond all day. Messages, tasks, fires. Rich men design first, then act. They spend more time thinking than doing. Not because they're lazy, because leverage demands clarity. Look at the behavior gap. Poor men feel busy. Rich men feel intentional. Poor men chase motivation. Rich men remove friction. And the most dangerous belief poor men hold is this: I'll use leverage later, after I make money, after I'm ready. That's backwards. Leverage is how you get there. So here's the move this week. Identify one task you repeat constantly. Just one. Ask, how can this be automated, delegated, or simplified? Use a tool, a template, a system, even a checklist. You're not trying to save time. You're trying to stop wasting effort, because once you feel leverage working for you, you'll never go back to raw effort again. And once you see that, another question appears. If leverage changes effort, what happens when decisions themselves become systems? That's where we're going next. Decisions. Most men think their life is shaped by big moments. A job choice, a business idea, a risk they didn't take. That story feels dramatic. It feels meaningful. It's also wrong. Life isn't changed by big decisions. It's shaped by the small ones you repeat every day without thinking. What you tolerate, what you delay, what you avoid, what you default to. Poor men decide emotionally, then justify logically. Rich men do the opposite. They decide by rules, not feelings. Rules. This is the invisible system almost no one talks about. Rich men don't wake up every day asking, what should I do? That question is expensive. It drains energy. It creates doubt. Instead, They pre-decide. They write rules for how they operate, then follow them even when emotions change. That's why they look consistent. Not because they're disciplined, because their system removes choice. When everything is a decision, you get tired. When decisions become rules, life gets lighter. Here's the contrast. Poor men rely on motivation to decide. Rich men rely on principles. Poor men react to what feels urgent. Rich men follow what they already defined as important. Think about money. Poor men decide how to spend it in the moment. Rich men decide once, then automate it. Same with work. Same with health. Same with learning. This is why poor men feel overwhelmed. They are constantly negotiating with themselves. Rich men aren't stronger. They just removed negotiation from the process. So here's the move this week. Write 3 rules. Only 3. 1 for money, 1 for work, 1 for learning. Simple rules. No complexity. For example, I invest before I spend. I work on assets before tasks. I learn one skill deeply before chasing another. Then stop debating. Follow the rule, even when you don't feel like it. Especially then, because the moment your decisions stop being emotional, progress stops being fragile. And once you see how powerful rules are, that you start wondering something else. What if time itself could be turned into a system? That's the next shift. Long-term thinking. Here's a quiet observation. Poor men plan in days. Rich men plan in decades. That's it. That's the difference. Most men wake up thinking about today, bills, tasks, stress. They solve what's loud, not what's important. Rich men think differently. They ask a dangerous question. What will matter in 10 years? And then they build for that, even if today looks boring. This is why rich men look slow at first. Their actions don't impress. No flash, no urgency, no visible reward. Poor men misread this as laziness. It's patience. Long-term thinking isn't optimism. It's strategy. When you think long-term, you stop chasing fast results. You stop switching paths. You stop restarting your life every year. Poor men keep resetting. New goals, new plans, new identities. Rich men compound. Same direction, same system, year after year. Look at the behavior gap. Poor men ask, what pays fastest? Rich men ask, what compounds longest? Poor men abandon plans when results are slow. Rich men expect slowness early. They plan for it. This is why consistency is rare. Not because it's hard, because the payoff is delayed, and delay exposes impatience. So here's the uncomfortable truth. If your plan doesn't feel boring, it's probably fragile. Real systems don't feel exciting. They feel repetitive, predictable, almost dull. That's how compounding works. So here's the move this week. Write 1 long-term goal, not 5, 1, 10 years out. Then ask a simple question. What action today supports that future? Even if no one sees it, then do only that. Ignore the rest. Because once you align daily actions with long-term systems, stress drops, confusion fades, and progress becomes quiet but unstoppable. And now the real question appears. If time can work for you, what happens when momentum itself becomes a system? That's where we go next. Momentum. Most men think momentum is emotional. They believe it shows up when motivation is high and disappears when life gets hard. That belief keeps them stuck. Rich men know something different. Momentum is mechanical. It's not a feeling. It's a system. When momentum exists, progress feels easy. When it doesn't, everything feels heavy. Poor men wait for motivation to act. Rich men act in ways that create momentum automatically. That's why their progress looks unfair. Not because they work harder, but because each action feeds the next one. Poor men start from 0 every day. Rich men never do. They design loops. One win creates the next opportunity. One output creates feedback. One decision creates leverage for tomorrow. When you don't have momentum, every task costs willpower. When you do, tasks pull you forward. Look at the contrast. Poor men rely on bursts, intense effort, short focus, then burnout. Rich men rely on flywheels, small actions that stack. They don't chase energy. They remove resistance. They structure their work, so stopping feels harder than continuing. That's the secret. Momentum is easier to maintain than to start. Rich men know this, so they obsess over starting structures, not heroic effort. So here's the move this week. Identify 1 habit tied directly to progress. Just 1, not 5. Make it small enough that skipping it feels stupid. 10 minutes, 1 page, 1 outreach. Then attach it to an existing routine. Same time, same trigger. Every day, you're not building discipline. You're building inertia. Because once momentum is on your side, effort drops, results rise, and you start to realize something dangerous. If momentum can be engineered, what else can be removed from willpower? That's where the next system enters. Willpower. Here's a hard truth. Willpower feels noble. It feels strong. It also fails under pressure. Poor men rely on willpower. Rich men design environments. Poor men say, I need to be more disciplined. Rich men say this system is poorly designed. This shift changes everything. When your success depends on how you feel, you will lose. Feelings change, energy drops, Stress interferes. Rich men assume they will be tired, distracted, and tempted, so they remove friction before it appears. They don't trust themselves, they trust structure. This is why they look consistent even when life is chaotic. Their system doesn't care about mood. Watch the behavior gap. Poor men put temptation everywhere, then test themselves daily. Rich men remove temptation entirely. Poor men rely on memory. Rich men rely on checklists. Poor men decide repeatedly. Rich men automate once. This isn't discipline, it's humility. Rich men know the mind lies when tired, so they don't argue with it, they outsmart it. So here's the move this week. Identify one behavior you keep failing at. Don't blame yourself. Blame the environment, then redesign it. Remove the trigger. Add friction to the bad habit. Reduce friction for the good one. For example, if you waste time on your phone, don't promise restraint. Change the setup. Delete apps. Change placement. Use blockers. Make failure inconvenient. Because once willpower is no longer required, consistency stops being painful. And when consistency becomes automatic, another realization hits. If systems can run you, what happens when risk itself becomes structured? That's next. Risk. Most men think rich men are fearless, that they take huge risks, that they gamble and get lucky. That story sounds exciting. It's also false. Rich men are not risk seekers. They are risk designers. Poor men avoid risk because they fear loss. Rich men accept risk because they control downside. That's the system. Poor men see risk as danger. Rich men see it as structure. They don't ask, what if this fails? They ask, how do I survive if it does? That single question changes behavior. Poor men make all or nothing moves. One job, one income, one path. When it breaks, everything breaks. Rich men spread exposure, many small bets, limited downside, unlimited upside. This is why they look calm in uncertainty. They planned for it. Risk doesn't scare them because it's already boxed in. Watch the contrast. Poor men wait for certainty. Rich men move with incomplete information. Poor men bet their entire stability on one outcome. Rich men isolate failure so it can't destroy them. This is why poor men stay stuck. Safety feels responsible, but safety also caps growth. Rich men don't jump blindly. They step forward in ways that won't kill them if they're wrong. So here's the move this week. Identify one low-risk experiment you can run. Small, cheap, reversible, a side project, a new skill, a test offer, something where failure costs little but success teaches a lot. Do not optimize, do not overthink, just run the test. Because once you stop fearing failure, you stop freezing. And once failure becomes survivable, another shift happens. You stop trying to win fast, you start trying to win asymmetrically. Which brings us here, competition. Most men believe success comes from competing harder, being faster, better, louder. They look around and think, I need to beat these people. Rich men think the opposite. They try to escape competition entirely because competition compresses margins, energy, and identity. When you compete, you are replaceable. When you're unique, you're irreplaceable. Poor men enter crowded fields and fight for attention. Rich men build positions that don't require fighting. This isn't arrogance, it's efficiency. Competition means copying. Copying means sameness. Sameness kills pricing power. Rich men don't win by being slightly better. They win by being different enough that comparison breaks. Look closely. Poor men chase what's popular. Rich men look for what's ignored. Poor men follow proven paths. Rich men combine unusual skills. This is why their success looks strange from the outside. It doesn't fit expectations. That's the point. If you can be compared, you can be undercut. So here's the move this week. List your current skills, then ask a simple question. What combination makes me hard to replace? Not perfect, not world-class, just uncommon. Then lean into that overlap. Stop chasing crowded lanes. Stop trying to win approval, because the moment you stop competing, you stop being trapped. And once you escape competition, one final system becomes obvious. The system that determines whether wealth lasts or disappears. That's where we end this. Learning. Most men think learning is about motivation. Reading when they feel inspired, watching videos when they feel behind. This creates noise, not progress. Rich men treat learning like infrastructure, not a hobby, a system. Poor men consume information reactively, whatever shows up, whatever feels urgent. Rich men capture, filter, and reuse what they learn. They don't just read, they build memory. They don't just listen, they extract decisions. This is why two men can consume the same content and get opposite results. One forgets, one compounds. The difference is structure. Rich men don't trust their memory, they trust systems, notes, reviews, application loops. Learning becomes permanent instead of emotional. Watch the contrast. Poor men chase new ideas. Rich men revisit old ones until mastery forms. Poor men consume for comfort. Rich men consume for leverage. They turn knowledge into behavior, behavior into assets, assets into freedom. This is why rich men sound simple. They're not overwhelmed by information. They've filtered it. So here's the move this week. Choose one place to store ideas. 1. A notes app, a document, anything. Then create one rule. Every idea must turn into one action within 7 days. No exceptions. This forces learning to earn its place. Because once learning feeds action, growth becomes steady. And when growth becomes steady, one final truth hits. Wealth isn't built by one stream. It's protected by structure. That's the last system. Wealth is defended. Here's the mistake that wipes out most men who finally make money. They focus only on growth. More income, more upside, more risk. Rich men think differently. They protect first. Growth without defense is fragile. One mistake, one shock, one bad year, gone. Poor men assume the system will always work. Rich men assume it will eventually fail. So they plan for survival, not perfection. This is why rich men diversify. Not because they're scared, because they're realistic. They don't bet everything on one outcome, one market, one source, one identity. They build redundancy, backup plans, multiple income systems. This doesn't slow them down. It keeps them alive. Look at the behavior gap. Poor men reinvest blindly. Rich men anchor part of their wealth in stability. Poor men ignore defense because it feels boring. Rich men embrace it because it keeps them in the game. Wealth is not about getting rich once. It's about staying rich long enough for compounding to work. So here's the final move. Audit your life. Ask one question. If this stopped tomorrow, what breaks? Then fix one weak point, one backup income, one emergency buffer, one hedge. Not everything, just one. Because when defense exists, fear drops. And when fear drops, clarity returns. And now you see the pattern. Effort was never the problem. Motivation was never missing. You weren't lazy, you were systemless. Rich men don't win because they try harder. They win because they design lives that don't require trying forever. I'll be breaking down more truths like this. Every investment that works in 2026. Explained in 10 minutes and every money lie. Keeping you broke. Explained in 9 minutes. Those aren't motivational videos. They're system reveals. If this changed how you see effort, systems, or wealth, you already know what to do next.